Hello, my dear friends. I love books. I'm a writer. Not a published writer, not yet, but I do write. I love the feelings that stories and storytelling give me. I have a very special relationship with books and with bookstores. I can spend hours on end browsing through the aisles looking for just the right book, often just standing there for a second or two deciding on which way to go first. I prefer nonfiction. Currently, I reserve the right to change my mind tomorrow. I love cookbooks. I love collecting them. Regardless of whether or not I've used all of the recipes or even one in them, I've found that I love to cook, so I know that I have plenty of recipes to choose from, including those from a beautiful, slightly worn, I'd call it well loved and well used, recipe book that was my grandmother's. Now I'm getting slightly off topic, however. I'll save that for another time. Some of the nonfiction works that I enjoy looking for have a lot to do with creativity, in general and in writing specifically. All forms of artistic expression, entrepreneurship, one of my most recent loves, design, both fashion and home decoration and architecture, and travel. These are but a few. The list really does go on. I really do think that I could write a book on books. I have books on Greek culture, quite a few. I have one classical work, most likely because my sister probably has all of the others, which is great for me, although I'm sure that I can find more than a few gems when, not if, I continue searching. I have three or four Greek cookbooks, including or excluding my grandmother's. I'm really not sure right now. I have both a history of Greece and one of Cyprus. The book on Greece I've barely started, so the other one hasn't even been cracked open yet. I've really got to get a move on. I have a travel book, which has a bit of history and modern culture here and there, which is what specifically drew me to it. And that work of fiction by the Greek composer, the one that I had casually mentioned back when I spoke about my love of Greek music, that book, along with the two historical works, were bought either by me or for me in Greece. The work of fiction is in Greek, and I wanted to read the histories of Greece and Cyprus in the Greek language as well. I have my books on creativity, including entrepreneurship, a history of philosophy, which I also have to make a large dent in, a couple of books on travel to Italy, personal experiences that read like fiction, which I absolutely adore, cookbooks, of course, maybe about 10 or so currently to get the collection started, and some books on self awareness. I don't like the term self help. I haven't quite looked that deeply into the wellness part of the section of the bookstore in terms of physical wellness, but I really should. I've also got this book on letters and other writings written by historical, literary figures, etc., copies of which have been put into this beautiful posterity memoir, I guess. It sounds like such an important, inspiring work. I can't wait to dive in. I'm waiting to finish whatever else I haven't read yet before I do. Similarly, I would think, I have two books filled with interviews with strangers on the street, people with insights to share. I've got magazines on fashion, but also with insights into humanity and into art. I've got books on home organization. My list goes on as well. Sometimes my love of books has caused me to be a bit particular about them. I know you're all so shocked. One pet peeve of mine is that I can't bring myself to buy a book or magazine with a dent in it, or a crease, or even a barely visible marking on the spine. If it's one that I really want, and all of the copies are damaged in some way, I'll pick the one that is the least so. I try my best to keep my books in the best condition, but accidents do happen. Sometimes I'm not as careful as I should be. I'll admit that, but at the very least I own them, and I have managed to keep most of my books in good condition. That makes me happy. So there I am in the middle of this big, beautiful bookstore filled with creativity, inspiration, and knowledge. Having exhausted everything else, I come across my favorite part of the bookstore. Okay, a lot of the time I go there first, as well as after the rest, but that isn't very dramatic. Referring to the stationery section, I focus in on notebooks immediately. I don't get my pens from the bookstore. That is another conversation for another time. Finding the right notebook takes my passion for writing to a whole new level. I leave with at least one or two when I can and when I find something that I like. I'm just as particular with my notebooks as I am with my other books. I can spend just as long in this section of the bookstore as anywhere else. I look through the shelves and the tables carefully to find just what I'm looking for. The spine has to have a spiral and it has to be a soft cover. Hard covers don't fold over easily, and even though I sit at a table sometimes, I use a lap desk most of the time. The pages have to be bright white. I don't like the ones with the yellow or beige tinge. It has to be lined. This has more to do with practicality because I find it difficult to write in a straight line when the page is blank. It has to be thick, not necessarily in paper quality, but it's more about the quantity of the notebook itself. I want to be able to write a lot. I would like a beautiful cover. Inspiration comes to me from everywhere. This being said, the bookstore isn't always just about the books. It's about the experience. It's about a feeling of warmth, a serene atmosphere, being able to take your time. It's about opening the big door and stepping inside, being faced with row upon row, aisle after aisle, of a vast variety of books to choose from. Selecting your book, or books in my case, feeling the book in your hands and flipping through the pages, chatting with someone if you need assistance, perhaps launching into a mini conversation about your love of books and reading, or else talking about the present that you're thinking of purchasing for a loved one. Taking your purchase to the cash register and in many cases having the same experience with the man or woman behind the register. A kind word, a friendly chat. Most bookstores even have a coffee shop attached to them now. It can be big or it can be small. A place where you can sit down and flip through a book or magazine, have a talk with a friend, a light-hearted chat or serious conversation, away from the noise and the crowds. It's a quiet place to do work, have a business meeting or interview, or otherwise plan an event. It's a comfy spot that's well loved and always appreciated. It will always be about the bookstore for me, though, personally. I received an email a couple of weeks ago that made me wonder if perhaps these experiences were starting to go by the wayside, and it made me sad. One of my beloved bookstores, a big one in a city that I grew up in, is closing its doors and moving to a smaller location. Rent increase was a factor, as seems to be the case for more and more businesses, but that wasn't the only cause. More and more people are shopping online. While there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think that there's anything particularly right about the idea of that lost experience. It's not just about not knowing what you're getting. I suppose that's a small part, but I think it's more about what I said before, about feeling the book in your hands, physically walking through the aisles, running your hands over the spine of each book in the row, and looking to see just what interests you. Are you in the mood for fact, fiction, action adventure, art, culture? Do you want to read at all? Would you prefer to write? What will give you inspiration? Are you looking for that perfect gift, the one that will feed the interest of the recipient, or perhaps grow their imagination? In my opinion, you can't do all of that while waiting for a package to be delivered. I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority on this, but I don't want to see the physical bookstore go away. Why isn't there room for both? I've had something delivered to my home before, and I know others who have. Online ordering is great. I just don't see any reason why there can't be both. I don't know, maybe nostalgia is just getting to me. After all, the bookstore is just moving to a smaller location, and that might just mean that others will do the same. That doesn't mean that they're closing completely. No, not necessarily it doesn't. But for how long? And even if it doesn't, it does mean that there will potentially be less employees to assist customers or even to engage with them. That atmosphere I was talking about will be gone. I'm just worried that with less space and less employees, everything will be rush, rush, hurry, hurry. I hope that's not the case. Maybe it won't be. Maybe this will be the only location to have to adopt these changes. Maybe. I saw a movie back in the 90s that centered around a bookstore. Often when I watch that movie, it's just for the scene where the big, beautiful bookstore, one that reminds me of the ones I frequent, and one that I hope that the phrase doesn't become used to frequent, is finally built. The main character walks through the bookstore and is overcome by what she sees. People of all ages are experiencing what this bookstore has to offer in all sorts of different ways. Some are chatting with friends, while others are content to be quiet in a cozy corner. Some are contentedly browsing through aisles and aisles of books, while others are making their purchases, satisfied at their discoveries. Some are gathering books while others are having coffee with friends. I think that she realizes in that moment that progress can be a wonderful thing. It may not be her small, quaint bookstore that was once a part of her and many others' history, but it's just as much a place where people can appreciate the written word while making memories of their own and enjoying a beautiful life. I hope that we don't get smaller bookstores. I'd really prefer it if things didn't turn out that way, but truth be told, I'd rather a small bookstore than none at all. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you so choose, and read on. I wouldn't want anyone to miss out on such a wonderful, beautiful experience of knowledge, inspiration, and imagination.